All right, welcome to the series, guys. This is basically a sub-series under the main series called React in WordPress. In this one, we're trying to build a different type of application. As you can see here, this is running on my local host port 3000. This is an independent single-page application, a React application with CRUD operations where we get to delete stuff remotely, and then we can go add stuff here like this, submit, and it shows up, and then we can click here to go to the single page, and we can go to edit post and make some edit here, the content, submit, and we get to see the changes immediately. And here's the changes in the content. But the thing is, this application you're looking at is not quite what we're going to be building, because the data source is this, the JSON placeholder. To be specific, I'm using these data source, the posts, but what we're going to be building, the data will come from this WordPress. We're going to use this WordPress installation. I mean, this is a local installation, but we're going to be using it as a headless CMS. And to collect the data, we're going to go ahead and let me show you what we are going to use. We're going to go ahead and use one of these users, but they're going to have this application password. As I have created two of them, basically, if you want to create one, just give it a name and hit this, and immediately WordPress will give you a password like that, but you're not going to see that ever again. So you have to store it carefully, copy it, take it somewhere, and this is the one your application is going to be using, right? So this is how we're going to be connecting to this Headless CMS WordPress, and we're going to be creating an application like that. To begin with, it's going to be simple like this, but eventually we're going to add a whole bunch of extra bells and whistles. Even the way we write React will be more complicated, like we're going to be using context, reducers, etc., etc. So that being said, let's get started. All right, so here in my hard drive, I have this application I created with the WP React app. It's WP Headless Stage 1, okay? So if I do an ls, you can see all these files are present, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a npm start. Okay, so now let's go see what's happening right here. Okay, so our page came up. Things are missing because I intentionally did so that I can give you a code walkthrough. So let's go check out the code. Okay, so right here, this is our application folder, and underneath that we have a pages folder, components folder, and inside the component folder we have some other stuff like layouts, general, Formic. This is where I have my Formic library. I have already made a tutorial on this, so feel free to check this out. And I'm gonna first start with our main app.js. Right here we can see I'm bringing in the browser router, route switch, etc. from the React router DOM, and then I have a main navigation, even though there's not too much use here, but I'm still going to go through the code for you. And right now we have, main thing we're going to look at is the home page, and in here we have our basic routes for home page, single post, and the catch-all not found. So let's go check out first some of the layout stuff. Actually, let's look at the home page. Here you can see some of the, besides React, I have some of the layout stuff. I'm using React Bootstrap. From there, I'm bringing in the row and column. And this is a page component that I've already built, and the content. And as you can see, the whole content is wrapped around with page and row, column coming from React Bootstrap, and content is coming from my own layout component right here. So just take a quick look under layout. So this is what the page looks like. This is the page CSS, very light. But this is the component where it's going to be taking three props. One is the basic children, one is the page title and the width. And I'm using the use effect hook to create the page title dynamically. And once this prop wide, which is a boolean, if it is true, then I am calling in the bootstrap container fluid, which will give us the widest possible screen. Otherwise, we're going to have a basic container which will have generous margin on left and right. And in between, there will be the children prop. So whatever goes in, it holds as children. And these are just a basic prop type checks to make sure all the props that are coming in, their types are accurate. Otherwise, this will raise a flag. For example, it's already doing it. Right here, you can see an error. It's already telling us that there's something wrong with the children. And there is, because if we go look at the home page again, as you can see here, the content, even though it's supposed to be getting some children, but I am having it disabled. For that reason, throwing this error, the prop type, right? So this is a good thing to have. So before I go enable the blog index and go over the code, let's go quickly look at the nav bar, even though we're not really using it extensively, but it's going to be very handy because I'm using React Bootstrap. And as you can see, everything I have disabled because I have no need for them. But let me just show you when I do have them enabled. Let's save it and go back. As you can see, we already have this ready-made navigation at work. And not only that, this is also responsive. See, it creates a nice little drop down for you. So this is a nice little handy thing to have. But right now, as it stands, I have no use for it. So I'm going to go ahead and have it disabled. So those disappeared. Good. Now let's go look at the blog index. Okay, so I'm using the usual stuff here, the useState, useEffect from React, and I'm using a loader from React Loader Spinner. And this is the one that stays active until all the posts are loaded. And I'm going to be using a link from the React Router DOM because this is how all my blog posts will go to their single pages. And this is the one, the WP-API. This is the most important one. This is the one I'm going to be using to perform all the CRUD operation. And if you're not familiar with this, please feel free to watch my previous series based on this WP-API. I have covered it extensively. And then there comes this parse. I'm using it right here. When I'm pulling the data, as you can see, WordPress, when it gives you the data, the title comes in like this, post.title.rendered. And this actually brings in a whole bunch of HTML code with it. So without it, it's going to show the code, but with parse, it's going to render the HTML for you. So let's go back up. Okay, so now let's focus on the main function here. At the very beginning, I am instantiating this WAPI library with a API endpoint, which is the WordPress REST API endpoint. And here you can see a username and a password. And this should be the application password, not the user's password, as I've showed before. So let's go check it out, where they're coming from. All right, so as you can see here, this is our source. And this is the REST API. This is our actual REST API source. And this is where I'm getting the application from under this username, CGT. So this is something, I just created to show because this is not gonna, we're not gonna do anything with it. But I'm using one of these. I don't even remember at this point which one, but this is what they look like, and they're gonna show it to you as soon as you create it. one time and then they're going to disappear. WordPress will not hold this for you. You will never find it. So once they give it to you, you go ahead and preserve it somewhere. Use it in your application only. And also, one quick thing I should mention is that this was introduced after 5.11, the WordPress version, and this is only enabled when you have this WordPress in production with HTTPS enabled, because this uses generic authentication, which is not encrypted. So HTTPS provides that coverage, right? But in here, in our local host, even though I'm not running HTTPS, I'm still having it enabled. And to do that, I had to do a little something extra. Let's go back. This is that WordPress installation backend, this WP-API, and this is the theme. And what I had to do, find the functions file, and at the top, or any place for that matter, add this line right here. So this will enable the application password provision for any installation that is not covered with HTTPS. I mean, normally this is not advisable, but then when you're using it locally for testing, this is the best way to go. Now let's go back to the React code. Okay, now that we have our WP-API object created with authentication and everything, so we're going to be using this WP object to perform all the CRUD operations. So next we look at these two constants. One is posts, which will have all the posts, and the is pending is the one that we will change according to post loading status. And this is the one we'll control whether to show our loading spinner or not. So now let's go to the most important part of this file, which is useEffect. And since useEffect cannot be async, so we just have a internal function as async, and we have it inside the try catch block. And right at the beginning, I am turning is pending to true so that our loading spinner can start showing. And then immediately after, we have this variable fetch post, and we use wp.post.get to collect all the posts from that WordPress installation, and I'm console logging it here so that we can see on the side all the data. And immediately using set post, we load up the post variable with all the posts given to us by the WordPress. And once the data is loaded, then we change the set pending status to false so that our loading spinner gets turned off. If there's any error, we catch it right here. And of course, eventually we call this function fetch post right at the end. Before we check out the delete post, let's go straight to our return just to see what's happening here. At the very beginning, we're checking for is pending true or false. If it is true, then we show this loader. If not, we just make it disappear. And then we check on the post. Once the posts are handy, all we do is call a map on it and loop through everything and collect the data and display them. And right here you can see I'm using link, sending it to single post path right here with the post ID. And I'm showing the post.title.rendered, and this is where I'm doing the parse thingy so that all the HTML that comes gets rendered. And also I'm showing the post ID so that we can identify them easily, because at this stage we're just testing. And right here we have the delete button, and I'm calling this delete function and sending a post ID there. Now let's go check it out what's happening. And as usual, it's an async one. Here also I'm turning the is pending true so that if there is any delay, the loading spinner gets turned on. And then I'm awaiting this where it gets calls the post function, attaches the ID, and then calls the delete function and gives me the result right here. And here also, just so that we can change the state so that our display is up to date, I'm using the set post and doing a filter and removing that specific post in question that is to be deleted according to the post ID. And once we get our post up to date, then I'm calling the set pending status and turning it false so that the loading spinner gets turned off. So as you have seen the whole thing, now let's go back to our home page and turn this guy on, save it. Let's go check out the front end. All right, look at that. No errors, and all our post gets loaded. Now let's check out the WordPress backend. Let's remember this post ID 335, and this is the title. All right, so this is the WordPress backend, and look at this title, look at this ID 335, and they're all coming from here. Let's go back. Now also let's try to delete something. Let's delete this one 335, and it is gone. And WP-API just reported back, and this time the status is trash. So let's go check at the backend again. Let's go to the trash, refresh. Right here, 335 is now trashed, and post again. The top one is Better Apps for Tutors 333. Let's go check 333 Better Apps for Tutors. And I also set it up in this way here that if I click here, they go to the single post page. And at this point, there's nothing showing up because there are work to do, which we will cover in the next video. But for now, just see, look at this ID 324, 324. Up here also 324, 320, so on and so forth. So using this ID, we're going to go ahead and bring in the single post data next time and eventually create edit and such. And for now, just wanted to show you the single post page code right here. It's very simple at the moment, but the significant part here is that I'm using this use params from React router DOM, and in here I'm collecting the ID from the use params. The params actually has this data right here, as we set right here, :ID. This is the one it's carrying in this function, but I am just deconstructing and getting the ID. Okay, so far I've been working with just the local host installation of WordPress, but before I finish this video, I just wanted to show that how quickly we can actually do the same thing using application password on a remote WordPress host. For example, this one. All right, so far we've been using this, as you can see, localhost 10004, and this is the one. And this time I want to log on to this guy right here, digitalsupportstaff.com. It's sitting in a remote VPS, and these are the posts it has. So let's go quickly see the front end. These are the ones from the previous local installation, and now let's go to the code. All right, so I've already set it up with a application password, this remote WordPress host, and I'm going to go ahead and disable this so that there's no conflict. So just by changing this and using that remote host's application password, and look, already it just did it itself. Now all of a sudden, let's do a refresh again. Look at that. Now all of a sudden, all these posts are coming from the remote box. Let's go verify. See, the first one is Michael was here, and the post ID is 1458. So let's go to the remote box. There you go. The first one is Michael was here, and we can see right here the 1458 ID popped up. And now let's go to the trash. So here you can see some of the posts that got deleted, but we're going to go ahead and delete the one we just saw. This one, let's go ahead and delete it, and it's gone. 1458. The status is trash. Let's go verify, and let's refresh here. There you go, right here. So just wanted to show you that how quickly, just using application password, we can just access any remote WordPress host and perform all the CRUD operations using WP API. That will be all for this video, and the next video we will move forward and perform all the rest of the CRUD functions. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button and the subscribe button. This will help me bring more free contents like this to you every week. Thanks again.